So today we're going to talk about 5 of my favorite minimalist tasks that I started doing over the past 6 years that have actually improved my life in many different ways. But before we start, if you're new here, my name is Becky Truda, and over the past 6 years, I've been decluttering my home with the desire to live a simpler life. And honestly, at first I didn't think it was gonna work, but after 6 years of learning and growing, I will say that I live a much easier, a much simpler life, and I could not recommend it more. One of the first things that I started doing as I was going through this whole process of learning and decluttering was to set up some areas, some flat surfaces that were clear. And that's probably not a revolutionary idea for some of you guys, but for me, it was very different. It was very weird. I always had a lot of stuff on all my flat surfaces. Didn't really matter what they were because I thought that's what you were supposed to do with flat surfaces. If you had a shelf, I thought it was supposed to be full. If you had a table, I thought it was supposed to have a bunch of stuff on it because I don't know. I couldn't really give you a good reason. I just thought that's what it was supposed to be. Maybe all the magazines I read growing up, I don't know. But one of the things that you could try starting today is to set up one flat surface that has nothing on it. Whether it is a countertop in your kitchen, whether it is your coffee table, or just pick a random shelf in your living room, take everything off of it and just leave it empty. There's research studies about this from Princeton that showed that clutter in our visual areas actually makes us more overwhelmed. It adds to stress in our lives. And if anyone else is like me, I don't need any more stress in my life. I have enough on my own. But I know a lot about visual stress because having something in all of my flat surfaces, having something on all of my walls, I was constantly overstimulated by seeing all of these things. And then, of course, that checklist would start. I knew that I wasn't keeping up with them. I knew that I needed to water my million plants and I needed to dust everything, and yet I just couldn't take care of it. It was like a constant cycle of not being able to do what I wanted to do. So today we're going to start with just one flat surface. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of everything on that flat surface if you're not prepared to right now, but I want you to live for a week with this flat surface having nothing on it and just experience what that feels like. For me, one of the biggest changes was when I decided my dining room table was going to be like no man's land, nothing on it. It was so weird at first because I was so used to having, constantly all different kinds of decor on there. And it made my life so much easier in the long run to not have any of it. Sure, it looked pretty and it was cute, but did I need it? No. Did it make having dinners harder? Yes. Did it make having game nights harder? Yes. Because I was always having to move things off in order to be successful at the other two. And so in the comments below, I want you to write one flat surface that you are going to clear today. You're going to keep it free for a week, and I'd love to know how that experience went for you. Stanford University found that walking boosts creative thinking by up to 60%. It can improve your mood, it reduces anxiety and stress. That's how important walking is. And after talking to my nutritionist, I didn't realize that 1, I wasn't walking enough, and 2, I didn't realize that it was this important in order to boost my mood throughout the day was taking some time outside to walk. And so over this past month, I have been making a dedicated effort into walking a lot more. Whether you have to just do this inside because you don't have time or whether you can go outside, I do feel like going outside automatically boosts your mood a lot more because you're in nature, you're hearing all the beautiful sounds, but I get that that's not an everyday, always going to be a guarantee to happen. And so I've added this little walker app onto my phone. It tells me how many steps I've done. And even if I haven't made it to 10,000 by the end of the day, I'll stand up while I'm watching my show and just finish my steps. And it is incredible that that little act of walking a little bit more can really boost your mood, especially as the days are getting shorter, the nights are getting a lot longer, it is darker, it is cloudier, and yes, our schedules are fuller. Thinking about adding in 15 to 20 minutes of a walk anytime during your day will immediately boost your mood. For me, what I have found is that doing even just a 15-minute walk a couple of times a day helps me to maintain that decreased anxiety and lighter mood throughout the entire day. I wanted to thank today's sponsor, which is Hydro. I am heading towards 40 very quickly, and I can honestly say that running is just too hard on my knees. And so when I talked to my nutritionist about different workouts, she said rowing would be amazing. She had mentioned that rowing engages 2 times more muscles than running and cycling anyway, and she said that building my muscle now is gonna help me in the future to stay stronger and more balanced. The one that I got is the Hydro Wave, which is slightly smaller. If you have a smaller space to work out in like mine, it works amazingly, but you can also get the Pro option. I have really enjoyed over 5,000 plus workouts that they have on the subscription. And my favorite so far is the night workout with the fireworks at the end. It's really fun and immersive. Hydro's Labor Day sale is going on live right now. So if you use my code BECKY, you can get an extra $125 off on top of the discounts they already have. This means that the Pro will be $575 off and the Wave that I have will be an extra $275 off. All right, I had to move up here because I had to give my legs a bit of a break because honestly, sitting on the floor is not as easy as it used to be. But that aside, these next two I think are the most impactful that have changed the way my house runs, my life runs, and so please hang on to the end. But this next one is a 5-minute evening reset. And why do I think this is so important? Well, honestly, as somebody who is neurodivergent and I do have a hard time starting something that I think is going to take a while or be a big project, I tend to procrastinate.
Right there.
Little baby. So with that being said, 5 minutes always felt kind of doable. Even saying 10 minutes feels overwhelming for me when I'm tired, I'm overstimulated, I'm ready for bed. But an evening 5-minute reset can work if you're like me. So during my 5-minute reset in the evening, sometimes I start a timer, sometimes I don't. But I have it in my mind that I only have to do 5 minutes and then I can go ahead and get to bed or go veg, whatever I have going on next. The great thing about that is that often what I have found is that once I start hitting those high traffic areas that I like to reset at night, which we'll get into, I find that the 5 minutes not only passes really fast, but often I get into whatever I'm doing and I'll go ahead and finish it, which makes the morning that much easier. So my evenings look basically like this. When I start my 5-minute reset, I start in this main living area where all the stuff happens. And often I'll find toys or shoes out, just random things from the day. I also do the entry area, just making sure that that area is ready for the next day. And then if I still have energy, I head to the kitchen because that's definitely the next big hit area. If there's any dishes still in the sink, I go ahead and put them away. And I make sure that the work area is generally ready for the next day. If those two things are done in 5 minutes, which honestly, guys, once you start decluttering a lot more and minimizing, 5 minutes goes a long way when you don't have that much to put away. So the last two places that I really like to hit before I go to bed is I just make sure that the bathroom general things are put away. Sometimes we'll forget, we won't put our toothbrushes away, our hairbrush. I just make sure those are back where they go so that I can find them easily in the morning, and so can my daughter. And then I love to make sure that my bedroom is ready for sleep. Now, I know that some of you guys might think I'm wackadoo for the way I set up my bedroom, but I am so easily overstimulated by clutter that honestly, my bedroom has to be one of the quietest areas, if not the quietest area in my entire house, for me to be able to check out and fall asleep without a million tabs going off. And so I don't have any decor, so that's often not something I have to do, but there are usually a handful of clothes on the floor. Sometimes shoes get dragged up there for whatever reason. Random things are left out. Those I like to put away so that that is not in my mind or on my mind when I'm going to sleep. It's not on my mind when I wake up as something that needs to get done. A well-cited study by Princeton found that visual clutter competes with your brain's attention. It reduces focus and increases our stress. So if that's true, then we know that in order for us to be able to go to sleep easier, in order for us to stay asleep, the research says your bedroom has to be calm. It has to be a place of serenity. And where you might not need to have all blank walls because your brain obviously functions better than mine, You need to remember that your bedroom should be a place of peace for you, whatever that looks like. If it doesn't feel peaceful when you walk into it, then something is off. Maybe there's too much decor. Maybe you have too many clothes and you can't shut your drawers, you can't close your closet doors, and maybe you just have too many pieces of furniture. When I first got rid of our big black dresser in our bedroom, it was like the biggest the biggest breath of fresh air because it felt spacious. It felt easy to maintain, easy to vacuum, and just that feeling of room helped me fall asleep a lot faster. So if you haven't been starting a 5-minute reset at night, I'm telling you, in the moment you get irritated because you don't want to do it, but it's only 5 minutes. It only has to be 5 minutes. So think about the area in your home that you are waking up day after day and you're feeling irritated. That's where I want you to start your 5 minutes. So a study from UCLA found that women who describe their homes as cluttered have higher cortisol stress hormone levels throughout the day. And so honestly, when I first heard that research study several years ago, it resonated with me. I knew it was true because when I had a lot of clutter, especially having my daughter and everyone's so generous, they give you all these things, and I just had so much. And you think as a new mom, this is what I should be doing. This will make my life easier, having every gadget under the sun. What it did for me was it made me increasingly more stressed every time that I was in my home and not wanting to ever be here. And so this research study from UCLA is 100% on the nose. If you are in your home right now and you feel very overwhelmed, you feel stressed, you don't know what to do, I want you to start with a 10-minute declutter. Grab yourself a timer, grab yourself a trash bag, and just say that I don't care what I declutter, I don't care how much I declutter, but I'm gonna dedicate this 10 minutes to decluttering because I know that it's going to improve my life in the long run. When I first started decluttering, was it easy? No, it was overwhelming. I didn't know what could go, what could not go. It was very stressful. I have a hard time processing and remembering things like when's the last time I used them. And so because of that, it became increasingly hard for me to declutter in the beginning until I just started doing it and practicing it and doing these 10-minute declutters. Then it slowly became easier and easier. So if you're sitting there and you're saying, this is great, I'd love to do that, but every time I start decluttering, I'm going through things and I get stuck. And then I start thinking about all the memories that I had with this item, and then I just don't know if I can get rid of them. What I'd recommend doing is don't worry about getting rid of it today, but put it in a maybe bin. If you just don't know if you can get rid of it, set it in a bin or a box, put that in a room out of sight, out of mind, leave it there for a month or two, and then think about, did you ever go back to find those items? If you're clearing off that flat surface and you don't care to go back and get those pieces of decor that you cleared off, or you don't even remember what you put in that box, stop there. Don't go through the box. Just get rid of it. You didn't even know what was in there after 2 months. Then you know you don't care about it enough. You know it really wasn't as special as maybe you thought it was when you had it out on the shelf. And really it all comes down to 10-minute declutters give you an easy win. I'm not setting you up for failure. I'm setting you up for success because in a 10-minute declutter, sure, you might not get 5 bags worth of stuff to go to the Goodwill, but you are checking in with your brain and saying decluttering is not hard. Decluttering does not have to bring me high levels of stress. Decluttering doesn't have to take me all day. I don't need to put it on my calendar for 3 weeks from today. I can just do it right now. I can do one basket, I can do one shelf, I can do one box because I only have to do it for 10 minutes. And when that timer goes off, girl, I bet you're gonna feel so much better than you did in the beginning. You're gonna feel accomplished. And guess what? Every time you do a 10-minute declutter, you are making your life easier. Hands down, it's just true. You're making your life easier. All right, real quick, if you haven't yet joined the community here and you'd like to be a part of us, then hit that subscribe button. But also, if you are decluttering, minimizing, learning new things with us, then please throw a heart emoji down below because I don't think any of us like to think that we are alone on this journey. All right, so you have to let me know if your parents were like mine, but often I would come up to my mom and I would just say, I'm bored. And she would say, that's great. Go outside and be bored. You'll find something to do. And you know what? She was always right. I always did find something to do. But on that note, I wanted to talk to us today about finding some mindful breaks of silence to be able to listen to ourselves think. And I think this is one of the most beautiful, most important things that we can get from minimalism. It's not always about decluttering. It's not always about having the least amount of stuff. It doesn't actually have to do with that at all. Minimalism for me has really just allowed me to have space for my own thoughts, to have room to think and to have quiet. And having less stimulation all over my house, having these moments where I can really think and be mindful have been the most impactful thing on my minimalist journey. There is a Harvard study that said that our minds wander almost 47% of the time, and this wandering can often lead to a lower level of happiness because we are not learning to be present. But being mindful of our thoughts, listening to our thoughts, and being able to talk to ourselves in third person can often help us step out of that unhappy thoughts, those mean things that we can say to ourselves. Being more mindful is extremely impactful in our day-to-day lives. I've learned to call my brain Susan, and it has probably been one of the best things I've ever done for myself. I was just talking to my daughter about this morning when I was dropping her off for school, and she was really nervous about stuff, and I told her, start talking to yourself as your best friend. Whether you name her, you name your brain, or you just want to talk to her as your littler self, being mindful of what you are saying to yourself can immediately change your perspective and your mood on what's happening in your life. I think all of us can probably say we've been through some hard times, we've seen some bad things, and we have even been in moments that are really tragic in our life. And what I have found is that those moments are still tragic. They're still very difficult for me. But if I can step out of that moment and talk to myself as a kind, loving friend, often I can improve my outlook on what is happening. So if you have taken nothing away from this video, take away the idea of having a few mindful moments. This doesn't need to be a 30-minute meditation. It can literally be you turning off the radio in your car and having a conversation with yourself where you are mindfully talking to yourself in a kind and loving manner, being your own best friend. And I really hope that you can take that away and try that, because if there's anything that I could share that changed my life, it is talking to yourself as your own best friend. That, my friends, can pull you out of almost any rut that you're in. All right, if you have enjoyed this video, then please go ahead and click on one of these videos right here, and I wish you guys all the very best.